Hi guys, this is Ben Hansen. If you've been following the surge of events where politicians have publicly discussed the UFO and ET topics in the past few years, then you might find this video interesting. Here's a summarized list of some recent events where former Presidents Obama, Bill Clinton, and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton spoke about the UFO subject. It's really quite an unprecedented level of interest shown by our politicians on the topic. It's anybody's guess as to why there's been a sudden increase in discussion. Many people have tried to make predictions as to when and if a disclosure of UFO knowledge was going to come forward. Some predicted that Obama would give UFO disclosure at the end of his term. That didn't obviously happen, but you can't blame people for trying to read the tea leaves when we've had so much political discussion. If you've seen any of the other videos I've produced, we've looked at nonverbal communication and clues that might tell us what, if any, involvement these politicians may be hinting at when they've appeared on TV talk shows. So I have one more video for you before we close the chapter on President Obama's UFO comments. This one kind of snuck under the radar and didn't receive much attention, so you may not have seen it. It comes from a speech Obama made at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute Awards Gala on September 15, 2016. To my knowledge, this is the last time President Obama made a public statement mentioning the UFO alien topic while in office. Instead of breaking it down for in-depth analysis, I want to try something different this time. I want to allow you, the viewers, to share your own impressions without my initial input. The only thing I want to lay out before playing the video is a reminder of how Obama has treated the subject in the past. If you might remember, a good case was made in one of my other videos that historically, Obama has always treated the UFO subject with levity, somewhat mocking those who asked him about the subjects of Roswell or aliens. It wasn't until his appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel Show in 2015 that I think he really had a moment of seriousness. My conclusion of that interview was that we saw a significant shift in his demeanor and an uncomfortableness demonstrated about the subject. He then went on to make ambiguous and conflicting statements to his previous positions when he appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres Show. Since that time, he still uses humor, but there seems to be something different with how he now handles the subject. Take a look and see what you think. This is right after he lays out the accomplishments of his presidency.
Now, none of this was easy. There were some tough years in there. You had fiscal showdowns and government shutdowns and pandemics and oil spills and pirates. Y'all remember the pirates? I mean, the only thing we haven't had to deal with is like the asteroid, or the aliens. That's true, good point. Shouldn't have mentioned the aliens. But we overcame all that.
Interesting. What do you think? I want to know your impressions in the comments below. Of course, please keep your language respectful, but I'd like to hear what you think this may mean, if anything. At the very least, I find it very interesting. Obviously, this alien joke was written into his talk deliberately. That in itself has meaning because there was mounting pressure by reporters taking an interest in the subject, and two of them even asked the press secretary Josh Earnest if Obama had plans to disclose information before he left office. Even the mainstream press was now onto Obama's habit about joking his way out of the subject, as you can hear one of them mention in this question. Here's CBS News radio correspondent Mark Knoller asking on May 11th.
I also wondered if you saw that New York Times story yesterday about Mrs. Clinton promising to get to the bottom of the UFO and Area 51 conspiracies. And I wondered if the president would like to beat her to the punch by, showing his degree of transparency on this issue, which is of concern to a lot of Americans.
Yeah. I have to admit that I don't have a tab in my briefing book for Area 51 today.
Or a joke.
Or a joke. Maybe it has. Part of a grand conspiracy. I'm not aware of any plans that the president has to make public any information about this. But
does he feel he's gotten to the bottom of it?
Well, I know that he has joked publicly before about one of the benefits of the presidency is having access to that information. I don't know whether or not he has availed himself of that opportunity, but if we have more on this, we'll let you know.
At night, under cover of darkness?
Potentially.
And yet, here's another one, asked by April Ryan of the American Urban Radio Networks. She observed Josh Earnest looking a little uneasy and pressed him on the topic. This was just 1 week later, on Monday, May 16th.
There's this increased interest in Roswell. You're doing the dance at the podium about it. Is there a such thing? Are you, look at you, you're drinking, so you're trying to think. Yeah. Is there such thing? I mean, are you keeping quiet because of security concerns? I mean, are we to think that there might be life beyond here? I mean, seriously, I mean,
I'll just say, April,
this.
There are some questions that even the White House press secretary doesn't have answers to. This is one of them.
You're not going to get off easy like that.
Okay. Well, you keep trying.
Okay.
Thanks, Josh.
So now it's September, and many were waiting to see if Obama would say anything before he leaves office. He takes the stage and makes one last deliberate joke. The man in the audience you hear yelling in the background says, "Don't jinx us." Obama replies, "That's true. Good point." He knocks on the podium and says, "Shouldn't have mentioned the aliens." In case you are wondering, that's an 8-second pause that comes next before he starts speaking again. He most certainly had a teleprompter, but yet he looks a little lost in thought.
Now, none of this was easy. There were some tough years in there. You had fiscal showdowns and government shutdowns and pandemics and oil spills and pirates. Y'all remember the pirates? I mean, the only thing we haven't had to deal with is like the asteroid, or the aliens. That's true. Good point. Shouldn't have mentioned the aliens. But we overcame all that. And the only thing we haven't had to deal with is like the asteroid, or the aliens. That's true. Good point. Shouldn't have mentioned the aliens.
Thanks, Obama. No matter how you feel about him as president, he did add some depth to the mysteries yet to be solved. Until next time, thanks for watching.